It's another edition of Diaspora Connect. Thank you so much for joining us on the program where we champion excellence by spotlighting the resilience of Nigerian citizens, breaking barriers and making a difference the world over. Here, we explore identity, origin, and diverse journeys of Nigerians in the diaspora. I am your host, Abosede Adeniyi. Let's get the show started with some diaspora news. Nigeria's lawmakers say the key to unlocking the country's full economic potential lies in one word, and that is integration. At a policy dialogue in Abuja, Chairman of the House Committee on Trade and Investment, Ahmed Munir, said Nigeria must harmonize its national data systems and deepen collaboration with citizens abroad to drive economic transformation. He explained that many government agencies still operate in isolation, a situation that leads to duplication, waste, and slow national planning. Mr. Munir said creating a unified national database will make governance more efficient, transparent, and inclusive. He also highlighted the critical role of Nigerians in the diaspora, describing them as partners in progress, whose skills, technology, and investments can help power growth back home. Experts at the forum echoed his view, stressing that rebuilding trust and ensuring transparency will be key to attracting more diaspora participation in national development. With more than 17 million Nigerians abroad contributing billions in remittances every year, policymakers believe it is time to move beyond the numbers and build real bridges between the diaspora and home. So time to act is now. On Diaspora Connect, we pride ourselves as connecting you to your roots. So let's check out these fun facts on our Did You Know segment. Some really amazing facts there. Let's turn attention to our focus today. From policy to prosperity, designing governance frameworks that convert investment into development. My guest is Ejike Okpa. He is a US-based Nigerian real estate strategist, public policy analyst, and influential diaspora voice, shaping conversations on governance, investment, and national development. As founder of the Okpa Company, a Dallas-based real estate appraisal and consulting firm, he has built a distinguished career spanning property valuation, land development advisory, and regulatory oversight across the United States. A former Dallas mayoral candidate and a member of the Texas State Securities Board, Mr. Okpa remains one of the most visible and respected African diaspora professionals in American public affairs. His decades of civic engagement and policy contributions have earned him recognition as a thought leader committed to integrity, accountability, and community advancement. Now, beyond his professional achievements, Ejike Okpa is a powerful advocate for sustainable development and responsible leadership in Nigeria. Through his writings, public commentary, and diaspora engagement, he mobilizes global Nigerians to demand transparency, embrace reform, and contribute meaningfully to nation building, embodying the belief that principled voices and bold ideas can drive transformative change. Mr. Okpa, it's good to welcome you to Diaspora Connect.
I'll give you a toast for that generous introduction.
Very generous.
It's nice.
Yeah, and it just also speaks to the fact that you have been able to make a mark in your own way, and that is the reason on the show today we are celebrating you and talking about how we can, transfer that knowledge and experience towards building a greater and stronger Nigeria. So tell us, how did you get into this journey? First, how did you get to make Dallas, a second home?
Well, thank you for that question, and thank you for the opportunity to share my the journey of my joy, the joy of my journey, because life is a journey, and you have to have joy while you go in the ups and downs of it. There are no promises of the outcome. You have the expression that there is light at the end of the tunnel. You have to have started digging the tunnel, stay in the tunnel. That is consistency to expect light at the end of it. Before I came to America, I made up my mind when I was 30 years old that this is the country that I'm going to come. I said to God, I didn't ask any pastor, didn't consult any spiritual leader. I said, God, before I die, I must come through America. And I did. And my father encouraged me when I finished high school. My father, I made grade 1, so academically I had what it takes to go to college in Nigeria or to go to college abroad. My father said, don't go, stay in Nigeria, understand who you are before you go to somebody else's country. And I did. After youth service, I came. I studied estate management at the University of Science and Technology, Port Harcourt. And my dad was in real estate before, so that's sort of most of the things I have done. I have followed. I've always want to be a duplicate of my dad because he's the dean of my life lessons. He's the man who has shaped my thought process. Yeah, of course, I've added my own, but I always fall back to that foundation. So when I came, I chose Dallas because my uncle, my mom's younger brother already was here. It was nice for me to come, and I wanted to be in real estate. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to do law. I didn't want to do architecture. I didn't want to change. And I said in 2 years, when I came, if I didn't get into real estate, I was going to go back to Nigeria because I was already an estate surveyor in Port Harcourt. And but in 2 years, before 2 years, I got into it. I just want to say I'm the only Nigerian that studied estate management in Nigeria, came to America and got certified as a commercial appraiser. It is one of the toughest professions to get into. I got certified in 1992. No Nigerian that studied estate management, whether in Nsukka or Ife or Port Harcourt, has ever achieved that. And for me to do it, it was because I believed in myself and I had the opportunity to work for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation of America, which is like the Nigerian NDIC. In 1988, 89, I wrote the policy on how to liquidate failed bank assets. I was the first Black person in the region, which is the central region of FDIC, to have the title of Regional Appraisal Manager. So it was a big deal for me.
It's a big deal, Mr. Okpa. It is a big deal. And I want to challenge you now. We're going to get someone to break that jinx.
I've been certified as an appraiser since 1992. I have done some of the most critical assets in America. And if I back in the early 90s when Nigeria was having challenges with banking, I approached the NDIC managing director at the time. I said, hey, look, I've done this in America. Here's how this can be done. And of course, I don't want to say that tribal sentiments and so that was ignored. But, people were coming to me I have memos to show what I was doing. In fact, the U.S. Congress on Subcommittee on Banking invited me in March of 1989 to come and testify in Congress. But at the time, I was just a green card holder. You know, my boss said, "Hey, Edward, I don't want to send you to Washington because it might turn into some other stuff." But I was pleased with myself to be in the role I was and doing what I was doing for America.
You're pleased with yourself, and I must say also that, you know, as a nation, we're also pleased and proud of all you have been able to do for yourself, you know, because in all of this also you are greatly flying the Nigerian flag, and that is truly commendable. And you know, I can see that Niger spirit. When I get in here, I'm going to make a name for myself. I'm going to create impact. If I don't do it, just say my name is not Ejike. So I'm really glad that you were able to achieve all of that for yourself. So well done, and you know, congratulations on all that you have been to. So you've been in the real estate space. You thrived in you're thriving in the United States. Do you have, you know, maybe franchise or any investment in that line back home in Nigeria?
Well, you know, I come to Nigeria often. This 2025, I've been in Nigeria 4 times, and you know, I wasn't coming on vacation. I came to speak. I came to promote an idea. I've always promoted an idea for Nigeria. When General Abacha was the chief of army staff, I wrote him on the Nigerian housing for military personnel. I still have that memo. You know, when Obasanjo became president and I approached him or some idea, Jonathan, the same thing. Even when Tinubu got elected a few years ago, I sent him a letter. I said, "Hey, Mr. Tinubu, here are the things you could consider." This, I told him in that letter, and I can share with your media people. I told him, I said, "I can help you raise a fund of $100 billion. And those are going to be specifically to build Nigerian infrastructure. You know, as much as Nigeria has physically transformed, but Nigeria don't have the critical infrastructure that will put it on a path for a robust, sustainable development."
Oh, okay, Mr. Okpa, but then tell me about the trajectory. You wrote these letters, you wrote these memos. What sort of reception, you know, did you get? And, you know, how do you think we can build, you know, on all of those, really?
You know, I laugh because the last time I was in Nigeria, I was in the office of the chief of staff to the president, and you know, the way somebody described here Omo Igbo, you know, which to me was basically, okay, here's an Igbo guy, because I was the only Igbo man amongst all these Yoruba people and the white people and the Americans that came with me. And I said, you know, Nigerians don't hesitate to remind you of your tribe. And what I think, I don't want to say that is a factor, but Nigerians are very tribal people. And in your introduction, you said something about citizens. Citizens build nations, tribal people don't, because we have these, you know, intra and inter-tribal conflict and squabbles that limits our capacity and our ability. We should look at Nigeria as a whole. But oftentimes when you
yeah, you know, we should look at Nigeria as a whole, and maybe then also it's time for you to, you know, give it a try again and just really see how it goes. Perhaps, you know, look at the channels. What channels can you explore? And then let's see, you know, how we were able to get that done. There is something you're talking about. It's like a message you're preaching on the rooftop. It's about some sustainable ideas. You visited China some time ago. Give us that brief. You know, what is it about? How can it transform the Nigerian infrastructure terrain?
Well, you know, infrastructure is like when you do exercise, you know, it benefits the person doing it. You know, if you have infrastructure for water, it's available to Nigerians. If you have infrastructure for road, you know, Nigerians are going to be able to move around freely. If you have power, you know, the first power plant built in Nigeria was in 1896. 14 years after the first power plant was built in America, Nigeria built their own at Ijola Power Station. I think your media people should go over there and look at that station. It's still there, even though I don't think it's producing any electricity. Nigeria had power 12 years before China. So if you look at, you know, the history of the world or countries who had electricity, Nigeria is among the first 20 to have it. But 129 years after electricity came to Nigeria, what do you have? You have generators everywhere. Nigerian installed capacity is less than 8,000 megawatts. I live in Dallas, and our population is about 8 million people. We need about 25 gigawatts to support what we do. So it's very, very unlikely you're going to be a developed nation if you don't have electricity. And in addition to that, you don't have water. And in addition to that, you don't have road.
So how do we change that story, Mr. Okpa? How do we change that story? And where do diasporans, Nigerians in the diaspora, come in to support that project?
Good question. Again, the letter I wrote Tinubu, I said, Tinubu, in your first 4 years, let me help you promote how to build 5,000 miles of good roads in Nigeria. That is freeway, not just highway. And I showed him how we're going to do it. You recruited the Nigerian engineers. There's no need a Lebanese man building roads in Nigeria when you have capable Nigerian engineers. You don't have any formidable construction company in Nigeria, except for Julius Berger, that can build infrastructure. Go out to the Nigerian community, home and abroad, and put it on their desk, just like when America went to the moon. Kennedy challenged American engineers and said, we're going to the moon. So why, if Tinubu is serious about economic development and infrastructure, stop asking for remittances. Ask for sector investment. Tell the Nigerian people abroad, okay, here's power, here's water, these are the infrastructure I want. I want you guys to come in here and tell me how you're going to build it with Naira or even with the currency of where you're coming from.
So that's another strategy. You're proposing a shift from remittances in dollars to now actual projects, sector by sector, right?
Yes, because remittances, for those of us that are in economic development, we don't give it any score when we look at destination for foreign direct investment. Because since Nigerians have been remitting money to Nigeria, it has not stabilized in Naira. In 1999, when Obasanjo came in there, 1 million Naira gave you an equivalent of almost $12,000 or $11,000. 26 years into democratic rule with Senate and House and all the infrastructure and all the structure that should help you grow your economy, 1 million Naira is less than $600.
So how does infrastructure? I know this may sound layman, but talk to us about what changes we are likely to experience, if we are able to make that shift that you are proposing at this time.
Or if you have power, then companies will be coming to you wanting to establish manufacturing plants, processing plants, and then your own domestic people will be able to produce what they can. Right now, what does Nigeria produce? Nothing. I mean, the oil Nigeria produced, Nigerians didn't do anything for the oil to be in the ground. They don't even have serious, oil companies that, do the exploration and production. People jump up and down about, what is his name? Aliko has done with the refinery. But, refinery is, after the fact. What matters is, do you have the indigenous technology or technology where you can woo your own people? Nigerians don't know how to woo and recruit. They just go out there. Today, Nigeria, why should we, again, I'm not trying to be against any nationals in Nigeria, but why should Lebanese, Turkish, Indians, Chinese be running circles around Nigerians when there are capable Nigerians all over the world? Go woo them, go recruit them, because they have a long-term interest in the success of Nigeria, as opposed to transactional Lebanese and Indians and Turkish people that overwhelm Nigeria. And then look at the coastal highway. Who is building it? A Lebanese guy. When you have engineers in Texas, a retired Nigerian highway engineer, he was the one that designed the highway system for Texas. And Texas has the biggest number of well-built roads in America. We have 400,000 miles of roads, more than all the roads built in Western Europe. No other country in the world has the number of roads Texas. So why don't you come and talk to these guys? Say, hey, what would it take? Don't ask him to come. Say, what would it take for you to come in here and give us a roadmap or a master plan as to how we can do this? When you do that, if America has not sector investment in the oil, non-oil sector investment, they will see Nigeria as a strategic partner. But if you just oil, it doesn't matter. So we have to focus on water resources. Lagos with 17 million people. If Lagos was a country in Europe, it'd be number 4 or number 5 largest, and it has no sewer system. It has no water system. When I met with what is his name, Sanwo-Olu, this one of my visiting, I just said, hey, I can help you do a water system for all of Lagos. All of Lagos. If you have water system, your health benefit will go up, your food processing will go up, your sanitation will go up. Now companies will start looking at your location or destination for food processing, your agricultural foods that can be processed and then it can be shipped. Nigeria has a good advantage to ship things to America because you don't have the resources to do what America wants.
And that's exactly, Mr. Okpa, is the reason that, for instance, this show is on, so we can spotlight these issues, and of course get the support of Nigerians in the diaspora to actually drive this change, this improvement that we earnestly desire. So I'm really optimistic that, after this program, you're able to drive some more connections, if it's to resend the memos or something, such that we are able to get positive feedback.
I have records. Everything I've told you, I have records.
Yeah,
my older sister was, my older sister was a first lady in Gombe State. My brother-in-law was the governor, but it was during the military rule, and I refused to come home because I don't like military rule. I want conversation that democracy enables. I want rules. I want things that are legislative. I want to sit down in a room and we go back and forth, and then we come up and say, this is why we're going to do it. It may be this is how we're going to do it for the short term. It may also be for the long term. If I tell you some of the legislation that I have participated in Texas, even how my memo, my idea enabled the deregulation of telecommunication industry in Texas in 1995 by the governor of Texas, George Bush, who later became president. I have that memo. I want to share with your station so you can see how ideas in America changes things. Nigerians look for transaction. They don't look for transformation. They have been transacting.
So, Ms. Okpa, now we're making a decision to move from transaction to transformation because, of course, that is what would take us to that height that we so desire. So we're wrapping up this conversation now. And as we do that, what would be your word, what would be your advice to that young Nigerian out there who is hopeful of a better life, who is desirous of making an impact, who, has listened to the advice of the parents, just like you did, to have your high school, secondary education back home, but probably desires, schooling abroad, and with the whole, what is happening in the U.S., for instance, with President Trump, cutting down on how many overseas students can come in. What would be your counsel to such a Nigerian?
My advice to anybody or suggestion, I don't give advice except if I'm getting paid for it. But, my suggestion is be mentally prepared. Understand where you want to go. Not just go to abroad. There are so many people that want to go abroad. It don't matter. For me, I made a decision. If it's not America, I wasn't going to Canada. I wasn't going to UK. I wasn't going to Russia. And I focused on it. And I started reading up on America. So when I came, I was mentally prepared. I knew what I wanted, and I wasn't going to deviate. Some people come here, because they want to make money fast, they want to go from being an engineer, a doctor to nurses and whatever. I said 2 years. If I get to America and I wouldn't get into real estate, I was going to go back home. And I started networking. I'm a networker. I don't socialize. And because I network, I build relationship. And I don't mind telling people this is what I want to do. America is, hey, tell me your story. What do you want to do? And I've always told them, I said, hey, I'm, this, I'm that. My dad was this. When I got my first real estate job, I didn't get it because of my resume. I showed them my father's business card in real estate. I said, Okpa company in Enugu. So anybody coming to America, going abroad, choose the country. And when you get over there, be a good ambassador for your country you are coming from. Nigeria didn't send me to America. I came by myself, but I still bear that ancestry and heritage. I'm still a Nigerian by birth, but I'm an American by choice.
All right. And you're sustaining that Okpa dynasty. Well done. And thank you so much for your time on the show. Ejike Okpa has been my guest today. It's so good to have you on the show. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's time to say goodbye on the show. But before that, remember to be great ambassadors of Nigeria. Bear the green flag with pride and contribute your own quota towards the development of our dear country. From transaction to transformation, that is what we need to build the Nigeria of our dreams. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. I am Abosede Adeniradere. I'll see you again very soon.